Hello everyone, I am Lone Ref of the Apocalypse, and today I thought I'd talk about removing, cleaning, and replacing your bearings. Now when I first started this channel, I told myself I was not going to do a video like this. There were too many other channels that were doing cleaning videos, so it didn't seem necessary. But I decided to watch a few of them, and I was really surprised at what I saw. For example, there was a derby gal who did a video, very well produced, very well spoken, absolutely adorable, but the information she was given was just completely wrong. And I was seeing that over and over on the other channels, things that if you followed their instructions you would damage your bearings and possibly even your skates. So I thought I'd do my own and follow the instructions that are given by the bearing manufacturers. So the first thing you need to do, of course, is to remove the wheels from your skates. Now everything I'm going to talk about will work for quad skates, inline skates, skateboards, and even razor scooters. It really doesn't matter. The process is pretty much the same. So remove your wheels, and I'm sure you know how to do that, so I'll skip over that step. The next thing you need to do is remove the bearings. Now there are three common ways to do this. The first one is just to take some sort of pry tool like the end of an Allen wrench, put it in here and just start prying it out. I really don't recommend that method. You can damage the bearing and it's kind of difficult to do. What you really need to do is get a tool, a hand tool like this one. Now Bones makes a really nice 8mm one. This is a 7mm one that I picked up online. Now if you're not sure what size your bearings are, here's a simple way to check. You simply take a number 2 pencil and try to put it through. This one does not fit, so it's a 7mm. If you go to this one here, you see it fits all the way through. This is 8mm. So this is an easy way to check what size your bearings are. So once you know, and these are 7, I got a 7mm tool. You simply press the button on the bottom, push it in, and pull, and it comes right out. Now this method works very well for most US made nylon hub wheels. Now if you happen to have a metal hub wheel like these Speed Rays here, or any Italian made wheel like these Roline Heliums here, that method could be difficult as they're really tight and the tolerance is very small, so you're probably going to need a bearing press. Now I don't own one myself, so I'll put up a picture. They work very well, but they're a bit expensive. They run between 60 and 80 bucks, but they are really great for changing a lot of wheels very quickly, especially if you have harder hubs like these here. Now once you get your bearings out, you need to find out what type of bearing it is. So for example, this one here, as you can see, it has a metal ring on both sides. Now this is an industrial bearing, really not meant to be cleaned at all. Oftentimes they're packed with grease, and once they start not spinning very well, you should just discard them. This one here, this is a Bones Red. As you can see, it has a rubber shield on one side and no shield on the other side. That is, of course, because once you put them in, you put the non-shield side to the center, dust can't get in, there's no reason to have a shield on both sides. Now some bearings do, like this is a Swiss bearing here, and it has a black rubber shield on both sides. So if it has a rubber shield on both sides, you're going to need to take one or both shields off. And the easiest way to do that is just with a little push pin. You stick it in and pry it out. I'm not going to do that here because this has a shield on only one side, so it's not necessary to remove the shield at all. Just simply leave it on. What you do is simply take a bowl, put it in the bowl, take some sort of liquid dish soap. Now you can use pretty much any kind. This is Dawn, it works very well, but I've also used some of the more organic, environmentally safe type soaps. They all work very well, but Dawn seems to be the one everyone recommends the most. Put a liberal amount right on the bearing, add some water, and just let it sit for a few minutes. Now there are things like this that you can purchase where you put the bearings inside with a little soap, a little water, shake it up, and they work reasonably well. But I feel it's an unnecessary expense. These run about $15, and the method I'm going to show you here today is very cheap. Now just let it sit for a few minutes and we'll be right back. Now you don't need to let it sit for very long. The dish soap will cut the lube that was on it previously. Now you just need to rinse it out. So hold it between your thumb and middle finger and give it a really good spin while holding it under running water. That's all it takes. Now set it shield side up on a lint-free cloth and let it sit for a couple of minutes. Now, just like before, you don't want to let it sit for very long, otherwise the bearing might rust. And once the bearings rust, there's really no saving it. Might as well just throw it away and buy a new set. So just let it sit long enough for the water to drip out a bit. You can also take some compressed air and get rid of the excess water that way. Once you do that, grab a simple hair dryer and give it a good spin and put it on high heat for as long as you can stand to hold it. Now I'm not going to turn it on because it's kind of noisy. Once that happens, set it shield side down, keep the hair dryer on it, flip it over from time to time until you're sure it's completely dry. Now once you're sure it's completely dry, it's time to apply some more lube. Now you can use pretty much anything, 3-in-1 oil, and there are lots of different products on the market specifically for lubing bearings. I like the Bone Speed Cream myself. Now you don't want to use too much, just a single drop is all you need. Any more than that and it'll just spin off when you skate and get your wheels all dirty, and it'll actually slow the bearing down. So I'm going to put just one drop on the bearing and another drop on my fingers. Now the reason you do that is you want to rub the lube all over the outside of the bearing as well. This will keep it from rusting. Also make it easier to put in and out of your wheels. So I'm going to rub it all over the outside, and then I'm going to give it a really good spin to get the lube all over the inside of the bearings. And that's all you need to do. Repeat that for all of your bearings, and then it's time to put them back in the wheels. Now once you have all the bearings lubed, pick each one up and put it between your thumb and middle finger and give it a spin and listen. If it doesn't spin very long or makes too much noise, the bearing is probably damaged and should just be thrown away. But if they all sound good, the next step is to put them back in the wheel. Now there are three main ways to do that. One is simply to push it in with your thumb. So you'll put the shield side out, push with your thumb until it's seated all the way down. Now to test that, you're going to hold it between your thumb and middle finger again and give it a spin. If it spins well, then you're good. If it wobbles back and forth, then one of your bearings isn't seated properly, so you should repeat the steps. But if you have a metal hub or an Italian wheel, oftentimes pressing it in with your thumb doesn't work. So what I recommend is take a nickel, then take a ratchet, an extension, and your 1/2-inch socket, put it on top of the nickel, and just simply push down. Move it around and back and forth until you feel it seat all the way down. Then put them back on your skates as normal. Now you should also skate around a little bit for about an hour and then double check the nut, because sometimes if the bearings aren't seated all the way, skating around will cause them to seat and then your wheel will be a little bit loose. So double check the nut after you've changed your bearings. Now if you have one of these types of wheels, a metal hub or an Italian wheel, you're probably going to need a bearing press. Again, I don't have one, so I'll just put a picture up. Now they're meant to be bolted to a table and they work very well, but again they're a bit more expensive, which is why I like the portable ones a little better. Now how often should you clean your bearings? Now that really depends on where and how often you skate. If you skate outdoors quite a bit, you're probably going to need to clean them every 6 months or so. If you skate indoors or not very frequently, then you can probably get away with once a year, maybe even 2 if you don't skate very often. Now, if one or more of your bearings are damaged and needs to be replaced, what kind should you buy? Now, there are lots of bearings on the market to choose from, but there are generally 4 main types. There are the industrial bearing, which we spoke about earlier, with the metal shields. They're usually ABEC 1 through 9. I really don't care for these very much. There are your Chinese-made bearings, like the bone reds here, which I do really like. There are the Swiss bearings made in Switzerland, and there are the ceramic bearings. Now, the reds I really like because they're very affordable. They are good for pretty much all types of skating. The Swiss ones, they are harder and a bit more precise, but they are quite a bit more expensive. Are they worth it? Well, that depends on the type of skating you do. If you're a speed skater, you skate indoors a lot, you really need that extra roll, then it's definitely worth it. But if you skate outdoors, or you're just a session skater, or maybe you're a blocker on a derby team, it's probably not necessary, especially if you skate outdoors, because they're going to get dirty and need to be cleaned and changed more often. Now, the ceramic ones are actually harder. Ceramic is harder than steel, and they roll even better, but the real advantage to them is that they don't rust. But they're significantly more expensive than other bearings. So unless you're an inline skater and you skate outside in marathons and you're always going through puddles or in the rain, it's probably not necessary to go with a ceramic. So if you really need that roll, go with the Swiss. For anyone else, go with the Bones Red. Now that should cover everything. Hopefully you learned something, so please like and share, and I'll see you in the next one. And if you're in Southern California, feel free to look me up, SoCalSkatingReviews.com.